So let's kind of shift our ideals to silver. As we can tell from the last couple chapters, China has a profound influence when we're talking 1450 to 1750 on the global economy. So China was like, we just want to have silver, and we want to have one form of payment. We will only accept silver for our goods. And so you saw this whole world kind of go crazy. The whole world kind of go crazy over that. And so for some of the countries, it was extraordinarily beneficial. For example, Spain benefited from that move to silver. I would say that the one region that really was affected heavily was Africa. And we're going to talk about that in our next segment. Today, we're just going to talk about the demand of silver and kind of what happened with that as well. So China decided to standardize their money. This led to the purchasing of those luxury goods like spices and silks and those kind of goods from just silver. And what resulted was this thing that they called the silver drain. So all of the silver in the world ended up pouring into China through Manila, which is actually really interesting, which was a Spanish colony. And so the Spanish saw the silver coming through. It was called a piece of 8. That was the name of the currency that the Chinese used. And so everybody would, want to get these piece of 8s. And so what would end up happening is that if you could find a colony that had a silver mine, you would cut that middleman out and just start making your own money. That proverbial money tree. Well, this was money in the ground that they could just dig up and just get after. So that's kind of what you saw with that. Let's talk Spain really quick. So Spain was extraordinarily fortunate when it came to silver mines and their conquests of the Americas. For example, the best example I have of that is Bolivia and the city of Potosi. So Potosi is this city way up in the Andes, which is a large mountain region in South America. And it is very, very remote, yet this city saw such prosperous growth during this time period from roughly the 16th century. It saw this huge growth. And so their population was somewhere in the 160,000 range, when the next closest city was Lima, which is now current day Peru, was a 10-week ride to get there. So if you can imagine, like, the city, Modesto's a little bit bigger than that now, but if you can imagine a 160,000 population city 10 weeks away, and so this city had the largest silver mine at the time in the world, and we saw this huge commercial growth, and this whole city developed out of that. It led to most of Spain did use the silver to trade, but most of that actually went to Spain and bought and sold goods within Europe, which was a lot different from, say, the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the English, who mostly took that silver and was like, get me that stuff, right? Okay, cool. So we talked about silver a little bit. Remember, also with Spain, Mexico has quite a few silver mines as well. They were fully aware of, exporting that stuff. Also, one other thing to kind of remember about Spain is that Spain liked to use the indigenous culture to do the mining, where when you talk about the English or the Dutch, they would import slave labor to take care of that. So let's kind of shift northward from South America up into North America a little bit. And we're going to remember, we're talking about the little chill or the little ice age, right? And so coupled with those really cold temperatures that we saw, after the great dying of the indigenous America's population, we saw that spike in global temperature, which gave rise to the need for furs. And so we're going to talk fur trade a little bit. And in the Americas, when you talk about the fur trade, you're mostly talking about from the Great Lakes down the Mississippi. We saw huge amounts of trapping. Most of those English colonists, though, would depend on the indigenous people, the Native Americans, to go hunt the deer or the bison or what have you, and then bring those pelts back so that they could trade them. And of course, they were not giving them fair wages for that. So that was kind of what was happening. I mean, in the 1760s, we saw around 500,000 deer skins get sold annually, which is a huge number for that population. Okay, so there's a great map in your Strayer book on page 263 that kind of talks about the way that was exported out down from Washington. They would go as far west as Washington to hunt pelts and then ship them down into the Atlantic Ocean and out. All right, so also one other kind of thing to think about with the Native Americans and their entrance into the economy, the global economy, is that they began to sell medicinal goods like ginseng. Ginseng is a root that is an Eastern philosophical medicine good that they would then trade to merchants, and the merchants would sell that to Chinese, and that started to take place as well. The fur trade was not, however, exclusive to the Americas. We also need to remember that the Ottoman Empire and the Russians, they also continued to trade quite a bit in furs. Remember, Siberia up into the steppe land has quite a bit of deer and things like that, and so you would see those types of furs being traded back and forth. Okay, so that is it for our segment this time. I wanted to keep it short. I wanted to keep it sweet. I was super excited to talk to you guys about that stuff. Hopefully you got a little bit out of it. Make sure you read the chapters and make sure you're doing your reading. Remember, a World History AP course or a WAP course, you must have that foundational knowledge. And just my point with this is just to try to help you guys, help alleviate some of that stress and maybe put two and two together with it. It's been really fun talking to you guys. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed it a little bit too, and it wasn't too fast paced. Remember, I'm going to try to refine this and make this as good as possible. I will be filming the next one tomorrow, and we'll be talking transatlantic slave trade, and we'll be looking at some stories within that. But as far as for the silver, the fur, and kind of the conquest of Southeast Asia by Portugal, the Dutch, and the English, and the Spanish, I'm kind of done with you guys. So have a good Sunday, or I should say Monday, because I'm going to release this on a Monday. Have a good Monday. Remember, you guys are amazing, and you're going to do amazing things. Thank you so much for watching.